For our audience who doesn't know what School of Rock is, can you tell us what is School of Rock? Give us some insight.
Absolutely. School of Rock's the world's leading performance-based music education company. We have 270 schools in 9 countries around the world, about 40,000 students, and we focus on integrating, one-on-one lessons, but complementing that with group performance. So our students will be working at any time for 10 to 12 weeks on putting up a show and working as an ensemble to put on a real show in real venues. They might work on a Zeppelin show, or they might work on a Beatles show, or Women in Rock. And it's a really fascinating way to not just become proficient at music, but to become great performers and great on stage. So it's been an amazing growth story, and we're really blessed to have a community of artists and teachers and creators.
Yeah, well, this type of success has to do in part with the group connections of playing music together in person. But now that we're physically distancing, as we're calling it here at NetSuite, how has School of Rock had to shift its business model during this time? And how quickly did you realize you needed to make that shift?
Yeah, one of the things that was really fortuitous for us is that at the very end of February, it became clear that we needed some unfiltered and clear guidance that was related to our business. So we were listening to Dr. Anthony Fauci, and we were listening to the CDC, and we were listening to local officials in all the different markets in which we operate. But we needed our own medical consultant. So we brought in Dr. Nina Shapiro. Many of you probably have seen her on TV. And she worked with us very intently to kind of say, here is the shape of the problem. Here is what's coming, what could come, all the different scenarios. So very, very quickly, we mobilized and said, we need to prepare for total shutdown. And it was scary. The reality is, Kendall, as you know, and as many of the listeners and watchers know, we perceived our source of differentiation to be in-person performance-based music education, right? So it was a terrifying, terrifying moment. But then we had an epiphany, and the epiphany is our source of differentiation is the relationship between our instructors and our teachers. Our source of differentiation is our culture, is our community, and we certainly we're not going to let physical distancing to get in the way of social connection. So yes, that's what we did. Is we started from the model, which is how do we preserve that? And through no contribution of mine, but other than being a cheerleader, our teams did an extraordinary job of configuring a technical solution globally that allowed, as schools cascaded to close, us to shift to one-on-one lessons, but then add additional content that technology enables, like master classes and artist sessions that that will keep running once COVID goes away.
Yeah,
so
well, that's
most of our business.
Well, that's great to hear. And again, it's cool to hear these stories, how companies are coming up with, new platforms to do what they do. And kind of along the same lines of what you were touching on, which is these connections to your students. During our GrowWire interview, we talked about how a huge part of School of Rock's mission is to help with teen depression and suicide. This is such a hard time mentally for everyone, let alone the kids and teenagers who are all missing school and friends and social life. How is School of Rock able to maintain these really special connections between your students and your teachers and assist during this difficult time?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I know we talked about it extensively when you were here. We have been fighting a different pandemic for the entire existence of School of Rock's history. As many of you know, there is a pandemic of teenage anxiety, or of anxiety and depression, and teenage suicide is the second biggest killer in that demographic. And that has been a core purpose, a core driving principle of us, is to create a community, an inclusive community that's bound by nothing more than the love of music. And thankfully, a lot of that can be preserved and even enhanced in online connections. And seeing the adaptability of our younger students, I'm a student too, I take guitar, but our younger students are tech savvy and do create social connections through through remote means. and to see how they're supporting each other and how they're uplifting each other and how they're actually hacking the technology to create music together has shown us that that purpose is more important than ever. So we decided that that is our call to arms, that we're going to continue being that therapeutic connection, that sinew between the bones, or between the organs and between the muscles, the connective tissue for our community, and continue fighting for that outcome. It's a very, very important and noble cause of our teachers and our franchisees and our students.
Yeah, and you know, I love what you said there. You're bringing almost two passions together. If there's anything we've learned from TikTok, it's that these younger generations love technology and they love music. And you're combining that right now with School of Rock. And I just think that's awesome. So, you know, I think all of us here.
I am not going to do a TikTok dance. That's our other commitment, is I'm not going to subject you all to that.
Oh, I would love to see that, but you know, I'll work on that later. Anyway, Rob, I just
you sing, I'll dance. Okay.
Thank you so much, Rob. And honestly, from all of us here at NetSuite, and I'm sure all of the kids and the parents that you guys work with, thank you for this awesome opportunity and what you're doing for our kids all over the world.